From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with your final webinar and briefing for Tropical Depression Nicole and its impacts on central North Carolina. It's Friday, the 11th of November, 11:30 a.m. So again, this is our final live briefing and our final PowerPoint briefing, and we'll continue to bring information throughout the afternoon, but it'll be smaller chunks of information rather than a long PowerPoint file. It'll be sort of one-pagers and that sort of thing. All right, so as everybody is aware, we've issued a variety of warnings. Here's live radar, and let me zoom in. We're under tornado watch, and that's until 3 p.m. this afternoon. And as I throw this radar into loop mode, let me turn on the warnings here. And you can see the purple boxes, purple polygons, if you will. Those are all tornado warnings that have been issued in the last 30 to 60 minutes. So clearly, these cells have been showing a tremendous rotation just above the ground. But as far as we could tell, so far we haven't gotten any reports. And let me pause this here on the latest. We haven't gotten any reports of any actual, tornado touchdowns or any kind of damage. We've gotten numerous reports of funnel clouds, but why those funnel clouds have not been able to extend all the way to the ground, well, obviously that's up for study as we get past this event. That's good news, though. We certainly don't want any tornado damage. But these the funnel cloud reports have definitely confirmed that these cells are rotating. They're producing funnels. They're probably just not strong enough to make it all the way to the ground. Again, we'll be studying that with time. But nevertheless, as I back up here, you can see in the last 30 to 60 minutes or so, we had tornado warnings out for Franklin County, the western part of the county, the northeast part of the county, and that extends up into Warren County right now. So that is the current and the only tornado warning that is in effect as I'm doing this webinar. And you can see there's a nice rotational signature in the data here. So anyway, that is, and that even shows it better. That removes the storm motion, and we can see a tremendous inbounds and pretty strong outbounds. But certainly, so far, we haven't been able to get any reports of any touchdown. So what that tells me here is, and again, it's not that it may not have happened. So at this point, when we are in live warning situations like this, what is incredibly helpful are live real-time reports, and even after the fact reports. So if anybody attending this briefing right now, if you have any reports of any damage, that really helps us. The more real-time, the better, because again, as I always tell you, this is our primary tool. What I'm showing you right now is our primary tool that our warning operators use. And this tells us what's happening in the sky. This tool does not tell us what's happening at the ground. So people tell us what's happening at the ground. So people, and particularly our core partners, our first responder partners, our emergency management partners, our media partners, sort of our first line of ground truth supporters. And we certainly can use your support anytime you become aware of any damage. So anyway, if you become, during the course of this event and any future event, you become aware of any damage that has occurred in your area of responsibility, as always, we appreciate those reports in near real time as possible. So anyway, as we look back to the west, you could see it becomes obviously scattered out. And obviously, when you go back towards the western Piedmont, there are still a few isolated cells. And this line that we have been dealing with all morning long, and again, this was well predicted. Our models did a good job showing this and the timing. So this general line right here, and I'm drawing this very generously, but this area that I kind of highlighted by the highlighter there, that is obviously the band, this initial band that we had always thought would have the best chance to produce tornadoes. So if we go to this, if we look at this band in a broad sense and look and see which way is it moving, it's moving off to the east northeast. So clearly that tells us that locations along and east of I-95, will, as we head through the next few hours, will be the areas that we're going to be watching closely. And certainly, we're going to be watching that and for continuation of rotation and certainly cells that could go on and produce additional funnel clouds and tornadoes. So anyway, yeah, so that's the latest. Now as we zoom further back, let me bring up here a larger view, and actually I got to switch my tools here. As we bring up a larger view, you can see this is live radar. So there's still a lot of precipitation left with the remnants of Nicole, and this whole batch of rain you see here over upstate South Carolina, the mountains of North Carolina, northern Georgia, and eastern Tennessee. That is going to pick up a lot of speed and start moving northeast very quickly. So what we're going to end up with here for our second primary batch of weather later today is all associated with this southern end of this precip batch as all of this kind of moves to the east. And I'll show you in a few minutes the reflectivity simulations of when that will come through. So that said, let's go ahead and jump back to our slides. And again, I'm just going to blow past these slides. Again, no change. We changed nothing here over the last 2 to 3 days. This slide has looked pretty much the same the last 2 or 3 days in a row. We've been very consistent with what we thought would happen, and indeed it's playing out. The tornado threat through late this afternoon, perhaps a wind gust threat later today with that second batch. And then, we've gotten a few reports of minor flooding and roads that were almost becoming impassable, but still, and again, that's what you typically get with this type of event. With 30 minutes of a decent downpour, you're going to end up with typical poor drainage, minor flooding, and that's what we're seeing here. And that will continue to be the risk through midnight tonight until the rain stops. And certainly, that's going to continue to need to be watched. So clearly, we want to remind folks never drive through flooded areas. It's really as simple as that. Turn around, don't drown. When you add it all up at the end of this event, you're looking at about an inch of rain for most of central North Carolina. Well, some spots less. Maybe an isolated spot or two with more, but I think 1 inch is about as much as any one location in central North Carolina will see. Again, the greatest risk for flash flooding is indicated in this slide. Again, mainly across the western half of the state, especially in the complex terrain. I've heard of some recent reports of flooding, more substantial flooding in the mountains. So that'll continue to be the case. The yellow highlights the area with the greatest risk for severe weather, both straight line winds and tornadoes. So obviously that's ongoing. And here's those reflectivity simulations I promised. And clearly, let me get my highlighter here because I always like to use this here's that band we were just talking about, right? And how does that translate in the next few hours? It moves east. Now, this kind of is the same band, and perhaps this radar reflectivity simulation that I'm displaying here might be a little bit generous with intensity and reflectivity, but suffice it to say, this activity right here is going to move off to the east. So that's why this band is the first band of the day, and the band we always thought would have the greatest risk for producing tornadoes. So we're going to continue watching that tornado threat as we head as that band moves east of I-95. As we look further back to the west, we possibly may see some additional very isolated cells breaking out in the early afternoon across the Triad, maybe across areas just eastern suburbs of Charlotte. So certainly we're not done by any sense. And there could be additional shower and thunderstorms that pop up just about any time. And sun's coming out. I'm looking out my window here and I see lots of sunshine. Actually, it's pretty nice outside. But you can see that in the light, looking in the upper left, this is live radar. And you can see those isolated cells scattered around the western Piedmont. There's several of them out there. And that's what these reflectivity simulations are suggesting, that will continue to be the case. Of course, we'll be watching those. The tornado watch remains up till 3 p.m. So we'll be keeping an eye on those. And then later tonight, that activity I was talking about in upstate South Carolina and northern Georgia, eastern Tennessee, that is associated with all this right here. And that will be the final, sort of the final event, if you will, or the final part of the overall event when that last band swings through during the evening hours. So again, once this first band, once this first band that's moving through right now shifts east, then for the rest of this afternoon, it becomes more scattered in nature, widely scattered to scattered type cells for the rest of the afternoon. Again, can't rule out an isolated tornado threat there. And then this evening, it becomes more of a straight line wind threat with this final batch of showers and isolated thunderstorms that's set to move across the area this evening. So that's how we expect it to play out. That was kind of always our expectations. It's looking like it's coming to pass. And then finally, after midnight, it's over for all of central North Carolina, clearing out. Although there is some hints that with the upper trough tomorrow, maybe late day, there could be a passing shower, but certainly nothing severe. Okay, so but the severe threat will be ending, obviously, as we head through, finally after this last batch moves through. All right, no river flooding expected with this event. So again, kind of wrapping it up and summarizing. If there's damage in your area, please pass those along to us at the National Weather Service in Raleigh. We're going to continue that tornado watch through the mid-afternoon. That first batch is moving across the I-95 corridor now. We'll continue to push east. That will have, an ongoing tornado threat. We're going to be watching for rotations in those scattered cells back over the western Piedmont during the mid-afternoon. And then finally, during the evening, we're going to see that last band that could have somewhere isolated and embedded 40 to 45 mile per hour gust. I'm not saying those are going to be widespread. I'm just saying those could be isolated higher gusts. So anyway, that's the way things are shaping up. Again, anytime you get a heavy downpour over a brief period of time and, water takes a while to run off, there could result in localized poor drainage flooding, the typical spots that, are quick to collect water during heavy downpours. So anyway, this is our final briefing. So this is our final briefing for this. This is our last webinar. The next webinar will be our regularly scheduled webinar that occurs every Monday morning at 11:30, regardless of the weather. So that's when we'll be back live Monday at 11:30. While this is our final set of PowerPoint briefing slides, we will deliver additional slides on an as-needed basis, but they'll probably be like quick little one-pagers or something like that if needed. So again, thank you for joining us on this series of webinars for Tropical Storm and now Tropical Depression Nicole. And again, give us a call if you have any problems. Remember, turn around, don't drown if you encounter flooded roadways. And anytime threatening weather approaches or if a tornado warning is issued for your area, do not delay seeking shelter. Immediately get in an interior room on the lowest floor.